Welcome back, guys. It's Mrs. Peterson, that lady who teaches art, and we're going to continue with our packet where we're using value to turn two-dimensional objects or shapes into three-dimensional objects or forms. So if you didn't see the first part of this video, go back and watch part 1, but this is part 2. Okay, then on the next page, guys, we are going to do a little practice with shadows, shading, and our horizon line. So let's start first with this sphere. The first thing we want to do is draw a horizon line. Remember, our horizon line can go above the object, or it can go through the object, or it would kind of look like it's behind the object, but it wouldn't go under it unless that object was flying through the air or floating in space. So we're going to just draw ours right through the object for right now. And then we get to decide if we want to shade above the object, or above the horizon line or below the horizon line. So for this one, I'm going to shade above. Just going to lightly shade as if the wall is darker than the table that this sphere is sitting on. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just a little shade back there. I'm using a hatching method where all my lines are going the same direction. Okay, then we are going to add our shadows and our shading. We'll start with shading first. Shading is on the object. So if this arrow represented a flashlight, the light would be shining mostly on the top, and the least would be on the bottom because of the curve of the sphere. So I am going to turn my paper to the side, and below the horizon line, I'm going to do a curved line. It's not going to be straight across, otherwise this will look flat. We want to help this look three-dimensional. So I'm going to do a curved line. Going to end up looking like a little smiley face down there. And in that sliver, I'm going to make my pencil go as dark as I can. Making all my lines go the same way. And that is my black with my pencil. Now I'm going to do another one of those little slivers. I'm still under the horizon line, and I'm still making sure that it's curved so that this looks rounded. And then in that little sliver, I'm going to go to my dark gray color. Okay, then I'm going to do my next sliver, and it is going to start above the horizon line, but it's going to dip down kind of to the horizon line, and that's going to be my middle gray. So that's just like regular pencil pressure for most people. We definitely want this to look lighter than our last area. I think I need to go just a little bit darker in the area before that because it wasn't quite dark enough to make those look different. Okay, now my last area is going to be done a little differently. Instead of doing that curved line, we're going to go up to the top of the ball, and we are going to use the side of the ball to make an oval. And follow this curve when you get down here. I'm just doing little sketchy lines. Inside that oval is going to be our highlight. That's where it's going to stay white. And outside that line is going to be our light gray. So fill that in with your light gray color with your pencil. You don't need very much pressure. There's more white space showing through than in the other areas. Lines are going the same direction. Feel free to twist your paper as you need to. All right, so we have our horizon line with our shading above. We have our shading on the object, and now we need to do our shadow. So our shadow is always going to come from the darkest part of our object. So here's the darkest part. It's going to be opposite from the light. So if the light's on the top, it's going to be on the bottom in the center, and it's going to mimic the shape. So it's not going to be a circle because we're going to see it as an oval when it's on that flat surface. So from the darkest area, go ahead and make your oval come out from the object. Now inside the shadow, I always like to use scumbling. So we're going to start close to the object. Scumble, little circles, dark closest to the object. And then as I get further away, they're going to get lighter. Okay, and there we have our first sphere. Now let's go to the cube. We're going to do the same 3 steps, our horizon line, our shading on the object, and our shadow. So I'm going to start again at the horizon line. Remember, it's not going to go under. It could go through, which would look like it's behind it, or it could be above. Let's do above this time. And we can color above that line. And this time I'm going to use cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is when I do diagonal lines one way, and then I come back with diagonal lines the other way. Kind of looks like fabric. So in this case, I have a white table and my wall is pretty dark back there. Now I'm going to look at the light. The light is hitting the top the most, and this side would be pretty dark. So I'm going to shade this side in at least middle gray, getting the least amount of light. If you get outside the lines a little bit like I just did, you can use your pencil. Go back. And then this side is going to be getting some light because it's on the side of the light, but it's not going to be getting as much as the top. So it's going to be like light gray. And I'm going to again do cross-hatching. I think it's easiest to fill in a square rectangle with cross-hatching because you can get all the way right up to the edge. You can see how those 3 sides are different shades. All right, so now I need to do my shadow. For the shadow, again, it's going to be opposite from the light. So if the light's on the top left, the shadow is going to be on the bottom right. It's going to come off from the darkest side, and it is going to mimic the shape. So if I take this line right here and I just continue it, and then I try to replicate that angle. So if I feel how that angle feels with my pencil, and then I come here and do that same thing, then I can have my shadow right there. Inside my shadow, I'm going to use Scumbly, darkest right next to the object in the little circles. And then getting lighter as it comes out. All right, next we have this sphere. Again, we're going to have our horizon line. I'm going to put it through the object again this time. And this time I'm going to color under it in using the method of stippling. So it's the little dots. I'm just going to fill in like the table has a little shade on it. Just to tell that the table and the wall are not the same value. All right, then we're going to add our shading to the object. If our light is on the top right, the darkest part is going to be on the bottom left. So I'm not up to the horizon line quite, but I'm going to curve around the ball, and in that chunk, I'm going to color it as dark as I can with my pencil without breaking my pencil or ripping my paper. I'm going to do another curved line. And in this section, I'm going to color it dark gray. This one is above the horizon line now. On this side, but not on the other side. I'm going to do one more, making sure it's curved. And then in there, I'm going to go middle gray, which is like normal pencil pressure. And then for the last one, I'm going to do an oval using the side of this again, making that highlight area. It's going to stay white inside there and be light gray outside of that area. Try to keep my pencil lines all going the same direction. All right, so I have my horizon line with my shading below it. I have my shading on the object, and now I want to add my shadow. My shadow is going to be on the darkest part of my object, so the bottom, opposite from the light. The light's on the top right, so the shadow is going to be on the bottom left, and it's going to mimic the shape of my object. So it's going to kind of come off something like that. And inside there, I'm going to scumble. Darkest right up next to the object. And then as it gets away from the object, it's going to get lighter. Shapes here. So we have our square right here, our cube. We're going to make it look three-dimensional by first adding a horizon line. We can do our horizon line above or through, but we don't want to do it under because then it will look like it was floating. So let's do it through this time. And this time let's color under the horizon line and let's do scumbling. I'm just going to do it kind of light because I still want to be able to get my shadow on there. Remember, scumbling is just the little circles. And now I can tell that the wall is lighter than the table that the cube is sitting on. Okay, then we're going to do our shading on the object. So if my light is shining from down here, the bottom would obviously be the brightest, but I don't see the bottom. The top is going to be the darkest, so let's start there. And as I said previously, when I'm shading in a square, I like to use cross-hatching because I feel like I can get right up to the edge when I go both ways. And so it needs to at least be middle gray because the other two sides are going to be light gray. They need to be a different shade. They're getting some light, but they're not getting as much light as the bottom is if the light is under there. Now the crazy thing about this is I put the light source on the bottom and we would not see a shadow because the shadow, if the light was strong enough, the shadow would be cast up onto the ceiling and we don't see the ceiling in our picture. So we don't need to draw a shadow for this one. So we can move right onto the sphere. So with this circle, let's make it look three-dimensional by adding our horizon line. And this time let's go above. And then let's shade above that horizon line and we'll just do some quick cross-hatching. If I go diagonal lines one way and then diagonal lines the other way. Cross-hatching. Then I'm going to think about where is it going to be darkest on the object. It's going to be darkest at the top away from the light source. And the line is not going to be straight. We're going to show the curve of the ball. So we're going to go up, make a curve, and you can definitely twist your paper as much as you need to. Being right-handed, it's easier for me to make a curve this way. Now in that little area, I'm going to color as dark as I can with my pencil without breaking my lead or ripping my paper. And then when I'm done with the darkest part, I'm going to make another rounded line. And up there, I'm going to go dark gray. I want it to gradually come down. Otherwise, it starts to look like one of those balls that the seals balance on their nose. We want each stripe to just look like it blends right into the other one. I'm going to make another stripe that's curved. And this one's going to be middle gray. Use my regular pressure, my pencil. And then remember the last one we're going to make, we're going to use the side of the ball to make an oval. And it's really hard for my hand to do an upside down oval. So if I turn it to the side, much easier for me to make my highlight circle or oval right there. I'm going to make it just a little bit darker so you can see it. And then in between those two lines I just made, I'm going to make it light gray. Again, we would not have a shadow that we see because the shadow, if the light was strong enough, would be all the way up on the ceiling. In most cases, the light's not going to be strong enough, so we're not going to see it at all. All right, the rest of this packet is going to be for you to do on your own, just what we just did. You're going to take the shape that's up here, and you're going to try to copy the light source. You're going to try to copy the different shades that you see and the different areas. So you're going to take what you see up here for the values and put them down here to color in the top up here, the shades on the ball, and don't forget the shadow, okay? Also on the back, I have a cube for you. You'll see that you have a bunch of different shades. You need to try to copy those shades onto the cube down here. Draw what you see. All right, you guys, I can't wait to see what you create.